Hello, everyone. We are Group C. We are going to be talking about Chapter 8, building motivation, formulating plans, and evaluating change. In our group, we have Jonathan Amata, Alan Cuellar, Kaylee Hansett, and myself, Omar Vega. Just to start us off, we're going to be discussing methods of how to build motivation to change. So, some key points to be really engaging with your counselee is going to be engaging through empathic understanding. So, really, just having being fully present with with the person you're working with and have a non-judgmental space. Also, you're gonna want to help the client establish what they want to change. So in that, we'll be discussing values and goals um, um, to change the process in which they want to see themselves in the future. So rather than asking ourselves, what do you want to fix? Key aspects can be what's most important for you in this situation in terms of changing. Another thing is going to be kind of drawing out motivation to change, and the book really incorporates the acronym DARN CATS, which is desire, ability, reason, need, commitment, activation, and then taking the steps. So, what would you like to see different in your life can be one of those leading questions to have with your counselee. And then the next one is going to be that planning your commitment to change. So, with that, it's going to be really having using SMART goals with your client and having that kind of having them create small goals that are not only achievable but also attainable for them to reach the next step that they want to see in their future. Continued on to that, we have uh, resolving ambivalence about change, so their hesitation to change. So we want to make sure that we're having sustained talk or having conversations about hesitation. So acknowledging their doubts instead of arguing against them is always a key factor in this. So sounding like um, rather than having that conversation about why are you so hesitant, we can always kind of consider asking them, what do you think is what do you think would make it worth it to change in terms of your goals that you set for yourself. The other thing is going to be using a decisional balance sheet that the book introduces. One of these can be one way to look at this is a pro and cons list. So help your client weigh the real impacts of their choices, of the impacts they're having on their life right now, and the impacts that it will have in their future, and then what the change would have, what changing their behaviors would have on the impacts in the future. So then they can see for themselves the various methods of the change happening. And then also reframing from resistance to change. So viewing hesitation as normal rather than defiance. Um, you want to really set the tone. So like there's absolutely nothing in your life that would improve to make you this change. So kind of having those guiding conversations and those thought evoking questions to your client and or student. And then another thing would be offering information or advice with permission. Of course, you never want to offer this without them acknowledging if they would want to see a different perspective of this. And then expressing confidence with your client as well as hope. You want to make sure that they always know that the ability to change is also seen from others. So this can be done by expressing to them, "I believe in your ability to take this step when you are ready," because that step is only going to be taken when they are ready. So we want to make sure that they know that they're supported in this process.
When considering intervention types, there's one type which is dialectical behavioral treatment, which is a cognitive behavioral program designed for those with poorly regulated emotions and self-destructive behaviors. And with this intervention, the clinician accepts the client for who they are and they support change to how the individual copes in all kinds of emotional and triggering situations. And there's four main focus areas. The first one is mindfulness. The second one is interpersonal effectiveness. The third is emotional regulation, and the third is stress tolerance. The treatment structure is a combination of individual and group sessions where the clients are encouraged to support one another while gaining a better understanding of the roots of their struggles. And DBT strategies They are self-calming, self-rewarding, and they help self-distraction with and self-assertion. And treatment exercise example would be a body scan meditation, which promotes focus on one part of the body at a time with the goal to anchor the individual to the present, plus become aware of their bodily reactions to stressful situations. Medication and hospitalization are an option to prevent self-harm and reinstate a balance between self-containment and self-expression.
So for acceptance and commitment therapy, basically the focus is to kind of just change your association with how you deal with the situation. It emphasizes that um, people don't necessarily have conditions of sadness and anxiety for this particular situation, but how they interpret the situation has more power over them than they actually do. And so instead of interpreting it as, okay, this is a problem for me, it's more along the lines of, um, this is an obstacle that I have to overcome and I will overcome it. So the goal is to help clients recognize themselves as a positive, transcendent person who can use self-talk to overcome their own ideal or own obstacles. Um, so basically, like when a therapist is working with a patient and utilizing the acceptance and commitment therapy, they're trying to change their association from I'm sad or anxious because of this problem, as opposed to I have a issue that I have to resolve and um, basically overcome it and move on to things that I want to accomplish. Um, this is accomplished through diffuse, which is distancing yourself from negative sentiments, acceptance, a non-judgmental stance towards the negative and temporary experience, that will grant the patient like mental flexibility to deal with the situation. After that, therapists encourage their patients to take strong, committed action towards accomplishing their goals. So that's that. For the next one, interpersonal therapy, it's also a short-term therapy process. It's saying 16 to 20 weeks. Um, that is reworking like clients' interpretation of their problems to say that instead of this is a condition, this is it's basically having them reinterpret their situation as a temporary thing that can also be overcome. And clinicians do this by it's more like approaching or dealing with your issues head on, as opposed to like reworking how you think it. It's so they put the obstacle in front of the patient's face and um, go through like a lot of role playing and like, okay, like how can you resolve this? What solutions do you have in front of you? Um, what do you have? What can you control? And how can you get past the situation? As opposed to kind of dwelling in it. So, and interpersonal therapy has shown to be proven um, effective across diverse populations.
Another intervention type includes solution focused based therapy. With this, it's very short term, goal oriented, so focuses on solutions and not the problem and not problems specifically. So rather than asking why is this happening, we may ask what has worked for you before. The core principles revolving around this is identifying strengths instead of barriers. What tools do they already have for change? Even minor even minor progress leads to big change, and then also building confidence using past successes. Another thing that is used in solution focused based therapy is encouraging scaling questions. So, on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident are you? And also, in some situations, miracle questions, which is if you woke up tomorrow and everything was better, what would be different, right? So then that way they can reflect on those situations at hand. And then if a student lacks, for instance, lacks motivation, one thing we can ask is, what's one thing you did today that made you feel good, right? So then that way they can always reflect on the positive and then not the problem itself, but start seeing solutions as they move forward.
The next intervention type is positive psychology interventions. So short is PPI. PPI focuses on a client's positive traits, emotions, and activities. So evidence shows that PPI enhances feelings of well-being and happiness by building and expanding on the client's positive emotions and capacity to live a meaningful life. So in essence, what this intervention type focuses on is like a strengths perspective and not so much on the negatives. So that pretty much shifts the client's mentality, and instead of focusing on the negative, they focus more on the positive. And then in a study by Barbara Fredrickson, her broaden and build theory showed positive emotions expand our focus and thinking, helping to build personal resources, so self-beliefs and attributes that help them manage their environment and achieve their goals, and create upward spirals that enhance emotional well-being. And then one practice example, so that would be gratitude journaling, which focuses on writing down things you're grateful for each day, thus shifting focus towards the positive aspects of life and promoting greater overall happiness. And then important elements of a contract. So contracts are created as part of the treatment plan for clients that involves creating a working agreement or formality that includes all parties that assist with the goals and objectives. So in general, it includes things like describing the roles and responsibilities of all parties involved, including the interventions and methods that will be used to attain the goals, and includes the means for evaluating the work or measuring progress towards the specific goals. And some issues include contracts not being specific, flexible, realistic, and or correct.
Thank you. That is chapter 8.